What up, Geek Squad? It's your boy Russ. You're listening to The Comic Cave. You can follow us at Comic Cave on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, and apparently we have a Twitch account. Nothing up on there yet, but we will definitely be getting some gaming stuff up on there for you guys pretty soon. On today's episode, I am running solo, and I'm actually covering a request that we've had, and I'm deciding to cover it because it is super, super interesting. We're going to be talking about Wonder Woman and her origin. I don't mean the origin in the comic, but how she actually came about and her creator and what she's based off of, because there's been a lot of controversy about her. So, well, especially back in the old days. So, without further ado. So Wonder Woman was created by a man named William Marston. William Marston was a psychology professor at a college, and before he created Wonder Woman, and his focus of study was on what makes people tick. Why do we do the things that we do? His Wonder Woman was very much based off of his life and his relationships, to be perfectly honest. And I did say relationships. He was in a polyamorous relationship. He was married to one woman, and he actually met him and his wife both met this other woman who was taking a class in his college class. And they actually both ended up falling in love with this one woman. And this is where a lot of the misconception comes in. And then this is where Wonder Woman down the line ended up getting a lot of scrutiny as well. She was based off of a lot of like BDSM references, and down to her clothes, like how she had the Lasso of Truth, and you would often see her tied up or having somebody else tied up, down to like her gauntlets that she was wearing and everything. It was very risque, and people at the time really didn't understand it. And we're going to dive into that a little bit more as we get into it. But back to Marston. So he and his wife met this other student, and they ended up taking her on as an assistant. And it all really kind of started with his work with his wife and his assistant. And they found out that the assistant was in a sorority, and that they did a lot of like sexual hazing and stuff. And they were wondering like, why is there this type of hazing in general? Like, what is the meaning? Like, what makes them do this? You know, again, it goes back to like what makes people tick. Why do we do the things that we do? And so they analyzed. They kind of like snuck in and watched some hazing, and then like she would also report some of her experiences, and they analyzed both how she felt, how they tried to analyze how other people felt in doing the hazing, and how even they felt themselves as being onlookers onto the hazing. And bottom line is they eventually ended up developing the lie detector. Marston, the creator of Wonder Woman, is who invented the lie detector. Him and his wife, and there was a few other people involved with it as well, some other men. But it was actually his wife's idea to measure blood pressure, and to have that be the key factor to figure out if somebody is lying or not. And it wasn't just to figure out if they're lying, but it's to be able to ask these people these deep questions and really see how they feel and what makes them uneasy and that sort of thing. So they would even attach the lie detector to themselves and ask very difficult questions like, how did you feel by watching this kind of sexual thing? And the relationship kind of grew between that, and Wonder Woman was based off of his work and both his love life, his two women. They didn't just immediately go into a racial relationship, of course. That kind of like grew, and that's why there's like some big misconception on that, especially back in the day. And he ended up actually even losing his job, his profession, over this. It got out that he was in this multi-relationship, and people just chalked it up to him cheating. And it wasn't cheating. His wife was also in a relationship with this woman, but at the time they couldn't just come out and say that. So Wonder Woman was very much based off of both of these women, and then the relationship that he had with them. They got much more into the whole BDSM lifestyle, as that kind of like lined up with his work and his ideas of what makes people tick, is about being submissive in order to give compliance. What that means basically is everybody's relationships. So I'm not even just talking about like your love life, but even like with friends and things like that. Some people are just more dominant than others, and some people are just more submissive, and that very much defines the relationship between individuals and your friendships and all that, and like how you guys engage and how you react to your surroundings and things. So the more that he got into this relationship and into this lifestyle with them, the more he realized how everything just kind of like goes together. So first off, like, yeah, they developed the lie detector, and that's actually what the Lasso of Truth is based off of. After Marston lost his job as a professor, he didn't think that he was going to get much work, and he ended up becoming a writer. And he actually wrote under a pseudonym for Wonder Woman. And when he pitched Wonder Woman, I'm going to get into why he did that in a second. And when he pitched Wonder Woman, he pitched it as this woman empowerment movement, and trying to get people more to understand that it's not just men that dominate. It's women. They're intelligent as well, and they have a lot of power to them as well. And so that's how he pitched it. And DC, which actually, I think at the time they were actually a different publishing company, but they're the ones that ended up picking it up. And yeah, just a lot of Wonder Woman was based off of, as I said, his two love lives, and the story was all based off of his life and everything as well. As I mentioned, the Lasso of Truth is the lie detector. And as he got into like BDSM, that's why she like wears certain gauntlets. That's why she gets the tiara, not tiara, but that head plate. All of these are symbols of that type of lifestyle. So as I mentioned, he was writing underneath the pseudonym, and that's actually even where the whole Steve Trevor relationship comes in the comics. Is he felt like he had to hide his relationship with the two loves of his life, who he ended up having kids with both of these women, and even after his passing, the two women stayed together, and one of them ended up living to be like 100 years old, and they lived together and raised kids together and everything. And what he would tell people is that he took on the younger woman into the relationship to kind of like, she lost her husband and had kids, and they were all like kind of helping raise her kids and giving her a place to stay. And that was like the whole concept. But by hiding that relationship, that's where Wonder Woman's secret identity came into play. And she was, she worked at the museum, and she was the secretary for Steve Trevor. And all of that was just based off of his own relationship. He felt like he had to hide his identity, so therefore Wonder Woman had to hide hers. Wonder Woman actually ended up getting so popular at one point in time that she outsold Superman. And then like you people probably know, before Superman, actually Shazam, which was at the time called Captain Marvel, was winning, was outselling everything. Then Superman kind of outsold, but then Wonder Woman ended up coming in and actually outselling as well. Like even younger boys were into this comic. You had this powerful woman, she was fighting Nazis and all this crazy stuff. And it really did do a lot for the women's rights movement, and it really did empower a lot of people. But then, of course, it kind of got out who he really was, and he got questioned by, I don't know if this was before the FCC or if it was the FCC directly, but organization came in and they were like, do you not see that your creation of Wonder Woman is a negative light because of all of these bondage and all of these other portrayals? And he argued, and he said, no, it's to show empowerment. It's to show a whole other lifestyle. When a young boy sees this, he doesn't need to see that there's something bad about these things. He needs to see that women are individuals as well. And They did end up actually getting her kind of like canceled for a little while once they kind of got out about his relationship, and again it was just misunderstood. So his relationship basically ended two careers. It ended his career as a professor, and then he ended up becoming a writer and found some work within that and became pretty successful. But then that all came crashing down for a little while too. And it wasn't actually until after he passed away that a couple of his kids came out and had a push for Wonder Woman to come back, and she gained popularity again. But yeah, we're pretty much going to kind of wrap up. It's pretty sweet and simple. I just thought it was a really interesting story that he based Wonder Woman very much like off of his lifestyle. To wrap up and sum it up is yeah, just everything about Wonder Woman, her secret identity, what she wore, the lasso of truth. Her personality was based off of both women, whereas one of his loves was a very dominant woman and the other one was a very submissive woman. And you see both sides of those within Wonder Woman as well. You see her, oh, I'm gung-ho, I'm gonna fight. And then you also see the side of, well, I want to love and I want to understand as well. And Wonder Woman became a very nice symbolic, wholesome figure, and blew up to what we have to today. And yeah, it's just, I also think it's really interesting that this man created the lie detector. But yeah, so that's going to wrap it up for this episode. You guys can actually find out more about Wonder Woman and William Marston. Simple Google searches. There are books about them that go into this in super, super detail. I didn't touch on everything because, yeah, it would take a lot. But then there's also a film on Hulu called Professor Marston and the Wonder Women. And it's if you have Hulu, it's free to watch. And that touches on everything that I talked about and goes into a little bit more detail as well. But go ahead and drop comments what you guys think, and if there's any other characters that you'd kind of like to cover their actual origins on, like Shazam or Superman, Batman, like what actually kind of like made them come around from the creators aspect and not just in the comics. But yeah, without further ado, thank you guys for tuning in. You can follow us at Comic Cave on Instagram, Facebook, Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, and Twitch. Peace out, Geek Squad.